Welcome to Brownish Parenting. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that many South Asian parents can relate to, that pressure to perform, to always be on, to be perfect, and to constantly prove ourselves to others. Many of us grew up watching our parents, and they were often in survival mode, that fight or flight mode, where they were working tirelessly to build stability and opportunity. And that mindset of achievement gets passed down to the next generation. And sometimes this happens without us even realizing it. But here's the truth: survival mode may have helped our parents push through these incredible challenges that they had to face, but it doesn't always serve us or our kids today. So if we're not careful, that energy that may have been passed down to us can make us more reactive versus proactive or responsive as parents. When we push for that perfection, we start to compare ourselves to other parents. We try to drive harder. And in that process, we really do miss that opportunity to connect with our kids. That's why this conversation is so important and it matters because parenting isn't about reacting. It's about creating the right conditions for our kids to thrive. So let's talk about it. What is the difference between reactive parenting and proactive parenting? So reactive parenting is when emotions just like take over. They take charge. It's when we're exhausted, we're stressed, and we're running on autopilot. And something small like just a cup of spilled milk can make it feel like it is the last straw and you can't take any more. We yell, we punish, we react. And it's not because we're bad parents, it's because we're human. And in those moments, we are parenting from survival mode. We're feeling that pressure to constantly be on and constantly be perfect parents. Now, what is proactive parenting? That is rooted in intention. So it's taking that pause before responding to that spilled milk, right? It's saying, hey, I need a second, and it's taking a deep breath before addressing that behavior. It's planning ahead, setting clear boundaries, routines, and emotional check ins so our kids feel secure before that chaos really hits. So when we're proactive, we're able to shift from control to connection. And instead of managing our kids' behavior, we're really guiding their growth. And instead of reacting out of fear, we can respond with more calmness and more clarity. So it's really checking in on our own nervous system before we check in on our children. And the difference isn't about being perfect, it's just about being present with what's happening inside of the parent and then what's happening with that child's behavior. Proactive parenting really does help build trust and it models emotional regulation for children. They see a parent frustrated, but knowing how to regulate those emotions in real time. Now, it shows our kids that love isn't earned by also being perfect and not spilling the milk, but it's built through patience and understanding one another and our own needs and how those needs can be met. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about why parenting can sometimes feel like this high performance job and why burnout is so common for parents. And so, I want to talk today about what it means to raise resilient kids in a world that's constantly pushing us to do more. Most importantly, in this episode, we are going to be sharing real and practical tools that you can use right away in your homes. So, when we do these simple nervous resets, this is going to help you pause, it's going to help you breathe and respond with that intention that your children are really looking for. And even when life feels overwhelming, you're going to be able to have these tools so that you have a go to before you react. And so let's go ahead and take a deep breath right now. And we are going to jump in and meet our guest for today. Let me introduce you to today's guest, Sharmila, the founder of Performance and Resilience Tactics. She has been a physical therapist for 25 years with certifications in yoga, meditation, clinical hypnosis, and trauma-informed practices. Drawing on both her clinical expertise and her parenting experience, she teaches simple nervous system tools that help professionals and parents move out of survival mode, prevent burnout, and show up at their best at work and at home. Sharmila, I'm so excited to have you here today, and I would love to just learn a little bit more about your story, how you got started in this space with optimizing the mind, the body, performance, resilience. So, anything that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for
Mhm.
having
Yeah.
me on your show. I really appreciate it and glad to be part of this conversation.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I've always been fascinated by this mind-body connection since I was a kid.
Okay.
And like for the past 25 years of practicing physical therapy, at the
Mhm.
same time, I was diving into all these different topics, some of which you mentioned, like yoga, meditation, mindfulness, hypnosis,
Yeah.
trauma-informed practices,
Hmm.
things just beyond the physical.
Yeah.
And when I encountered my clients' struggles and even my own personal struggles, it just
Hmm.
helped me to put this all together
Yeah.
in kind of a framework
Hmm.
and down to simple concepts that can be used in real time. So not just when we have time outside of everything or like going to
Yeah.
location, right? Because that's not realistic always, but
Mhm.
in the middle of it all, in the middle of the chaos.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love the practicality of what you do and how it's not because sometimes when you talked about like yoga or mindfulness, it's definitely something where you have to step away and have space for that, right, in your day. But these are things that you're saying we can use like right away, right? Like while we're in that chaos. So I'd love to just talk a little bit about the chaos and, feel free to also share your parenting struggles too if you can remember them, but also like just how parenting today, like it does feel like we're in survival mode. And, when we think about our grandparents, our ancestors, they were in survival mode to then our parents immigrating here and acculturating here and also feeling that, pressure to succeed and to really provide the basics for their family because they didn't have, right? Like grandparent support or probably money and they had to like make it on their own. To today, like what does survival mode look like for parenting when you think about that?
Yeah, I think you said a lot of important things.
Yeah.
I think it's important to honor the whole journey that our
Yeah.
parents have gone through, right? And
Mhm.
but this thing is we kind of inherited that, this keep going no matter what mindset,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Hmm.
from our parents who were just trying to survive, different ways, like you mentioned, financially,
Hmm.
culturally, emotionally. So
Yeah.
the survival mode was needed.
Yeah.
But for us, we've kind of picked up on that. It's kind of ingrained in us in a way, and it shows up in
Hmm.
so many different ways. Like it
Yeah.
could be even showing up in our parenting. Things like just pushing harder and producing no matter what the cost is, and
Yeah.
perfectionism is another big one. And
Yeah.
so what happens is we're stuck in these modes, which is more of a reactive mode,
Hmm.
not the mode that's conducive for connecting, being present,
Yeah.
engaging, being creative.
Yeah.
Looking back on this whole thing, for us, a big part of generational repair
Hmm.
is regulation of ourselves, of normalizing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you said that. It actually brought up for me just this idea of I just recently saw this TikTok video of someone, a parent that was trying to get her kid to eat like bell peppers or more veggies. And that creativity that she used to just like slice the bell pepper, make it into a bracelet. And then she told her daughter, like, hey, do you want to take a bite of, your crunchy pepper bracelet? And the daughter was like, yeah, sure. Versus like Indian parents sometimes are like, eat your vegetables right now. And that's what I'm saying. You have to do this, right? And it's,
Down their throats.
yeah, yeah. And
Right.
so I feel like, yeah, when you think about that reactive versus responsive and just the different ages that kids are at, like whether it's like getting them to eat their vegetables or like, we have boys that are teens now. And so thinking about when they come back past curfew and everything just feels really like high stakes. And I feel like a lot of South Asian parents might go to that worst case scenario. This is the end all, like right away. I don't know if that has something to do with this, but if you could talk more about how why, I guess, like, yeah, how we're so reactive, why we're so reactive, and how do we move away from that?
Yeah, I could totally relate because I have
Yeah,
two teenage boys. So I've
yeah.
gone through these whole ups and downs of navigating this all. And I think going back to that survival mode is a reactive mode.
Hmm.
What that mean, reactive versus responsive? Well, reactive is kind of like when we take action without fully thinking about it. It's like
Yeah.
fast, automatic and often driven from stress.
Yes.
Responsive is when there's a trigger and
Hmm.
then a space before my action.
Yeah.
And That space is actually a physiological one. It's an
Mhm.
ability to shift between fight or flight towards more of a mode that's conducive to actually take intentional action that's best for the situation, where our thinking brain is fully online, that we can
Yeah.
make most effective decisions. So I think we've all been there when we just react. And even though we
Yes.
have a lot of this training, we read the
I
parenting,
know.
all the tips and tricks, right? But when we're in
Yeah.
that moment, that reactive moment, survival mode, it's hard to pull in all that information at that time,
Hmm.
intentional action. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that's so important because for like the parent-child relationship, that is so, so important what you said because being reactive is just pulling kids away. Like they're not necessarily going to open up about why they did what they did or as they get older, right? In the beginning, it's like the young stuff, like when they're young, it's just like the little things, but it's also causing a lot of fear. And then they're just being more obedient. And then as they get older, it actually impacts your relationship. So this is why it's so, so important. And like, just building connection with them is only going to happen when we can be responsive. And so I'd like to move into just you at the emotional junk drawer a little bit and the concept that you have there for, you talked about reactive is coming from stress. How can we acknowledge that stress and let go of that stress? And what does the emotional junk drawer, I guess, have to do with that too? Yeah.
Yeah, I've used this analogy before. My friends are emotional junk drawer, and I'm just using that just to really accent the point that when we shove things down and keep going, we keep
Yes.
pushing forward no matter what,
Yeah.
that goes somewhere. Our
Uh-huh.
body keeps track of it all. Our
Yeah.
body doesn't lie.
Hmm.
So we store stress in our body, and it doesn't have to be just in the diaphragm. It could be anywhere in our body. But I use that analogy just to bring up that point.
Yeah.
So the diaphragm is one common place, which then keeping in line with that, it affects how we breathe, how we show up, how we perform, our energy, our focus, and keeps us in that stress mode.
Yeah.
So bringing our awareness to our body and
Hmm.
like developing a relationship with it is a way to start to navigate that.
Yeah, yeah. And I like how, when you think about that, shoving all these emotions down. So that's where that mind and body connection is coming from because you're telling yourself these stories about what you're like as a parent or why you didn't, step in or you're feeling judged for what your child just did. And so all that stuff is just coming in and it just keeps coming in and you don't feel like a perfect parent. And then your child is not doing what they're supposed to be doing for the elders in the community. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm being judged for that now. And then all that stuff is getting shoved in. So it's like these stories and the stress around what we have placed as expectations for ourselves as parents starts this idea and all these, thoughts and feelings and emotions that then get, shoved down. And then we kind of erupt, right? We have this reactive thing that happens.
Yeah, we have this pressure to perform all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
from different angles. And
Yeah.
one way we feel like we're failing. There's
I
so
know.
much pressure on us to
Yeah.
get it right.
Yeah. So are there strategies that you use for maybe emptying that emotional junk drawer? Like, is there something that parents can do?
Yeah, there's so many strategies, there's so many different approaches from different angles, but
Yeah.
the angle that I use is a body-based approach. So
Okay.
again, you know, first understanding what our body signals are in that moment of chaos.
Yeah.
Develop that relationship and get those clues at that time,
Hmm.
then it helps us to shift. And then we can use a different variety of different techniques. But the first thing is developing awareness of ourselves,
Okay.
specifically our body. It's a way to actually concretely start to work with it so that we can
Yeah.
shift the state that we're coming from and be in a state that's more conducive to what's needed at that moment.
I'm just trying to think of how this would show up for me, but like, do you feel like it's a body scan? Like when I start to think like, okay, wow, I'm being judged by, or like what I'm doing right now, or my child just did this and I want them to stop, and I start to feel this in my body. Is it like a body scan? Like where you're thinking about what's happening in your neck or your shoulders? Like how do you tune in?
Well, the first thing I do is I teach people a little bit about their systems, like a quick
Hmm.
instruction manual.
Yeah.
So, to explain that there's three different gears that we shift between.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I kind of give them a
Yeah.
little bit of overview before diving into what to do so that it makes sense.
Ah, okay. So yeah, let's talk about that then. Let's talk about I know you do teach about the three zones.
Yeah.
And is that what you're talking about? The three zones? Okay.
Exactly. Because I feel like we have, before I get to the techniques, I feel like we have instruction manuals for everything, like our
Yeah,
coffee machines or phones, but we don't really have instruction manuals for ourselves.
I know. Yeah.
So that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to give a quick one. And the way that I explain it is through three different gears that
Okay.
we can shift between all of
Okay.
us
Yeah.
at any given moment. And it, depending on what gear we're in right now, like this
Mhm.
moment, it's going to influence how we show up, how we perform, how we think, how we connect, how
Yeah.
present we are.
Okay.
So just a quick overview of that.
Yeah.
There's high gear when
Mhm.
there's a lot of energy in our system and we're
Yeah.
that whole fight or flight.
Uh-huh.
There's low gear when there's very little energy in our system. We could feel things like shut down, tired, like we want to just disconnect from everything, withdraw. Then there's a middle gear, which I call the optimal gear, where
Okay.
there's not too much energy, not too little energy, just the right amount so that
Hmm.
we can show up at our best. Where
Okay.
brain's fully online, where we can actually use all our skills in that moment. So,
Um,
like, what has helped me tremendously and what
mhm.
I share with my clients in a little more detail is first just understanding these gears for ourselves and then getting used to like a checklist to figure out at that moment, hey, where am I coming from?
Yeah.
That awareness piece is huge. It's actually
Yeah.
the most critical step to then
Hmm.
actually using techniques to shift it.
Oh, wow. And are there things that happen like physiologically, like if you don't get a good night's sleep, would that put you in sort of that low zone? And then if you're upset about something, some injustice that happened, that could put you in a high zone. So it's related to body and mind and everything that's going on.
We shift all the time.
Yeah.
And so many things have influenced that.
Hmm.
Sleep, how we eat, what happened before, all of that stuff influences moment to moment where we're coming from.
Yeah.
So just even kind of holding space for that and
Mhm.
validating that this is what's happening, I think for me has been really freeing
Yeah.
because then in the moment of it all, I can figure out, okay, why am I acting this way? Like what is,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's like we react and then afterwards it's just kind of too late. So in the moment, regulation, micro regulation, little moments to reset
Mhm.
ourselves, to me has been huge.
Okay. So if you're in a high zone, yeah, what is a micro regulation that you
Okay,
could
so,
use? Because that's the reactive mode that we're trying to get out of, right? For our parents.
right.
Yeah.
So high gear
Hmm.
is we're on and we're just, there's so much to do. It's too little time. We're running around. And we're often operating from this mode, actually, for all of
Yeah.
us. Busy with lots to do. And I
Yeah.
work with people similar to when I work with people that are in high pressure positions,
Hmm.
they're on all the time. They don't, that's not sustainable. But then
Yeah.
they don't have time to clock out, just like with parenting. Parenting is
Yeah.
24/7,
It
right?
is.
A
Yeah.
high performance role too, because it's
Yeah.
unpredictable,
Uh-huh.
emotionally demanding, and it's 24/7.
Yeah.
There's not necessarily time to clock out.
Hmm.
So for both these types of things, I talk about how important it is to have in the moment, I'm talking 60 seconds or less,
Yeah.
micro resets, that
Yeah.
micro regulation to just
Yeah.
shift us out of high gear down towards optimal gear. That's it.
Okay.
So not just waiting for like that vacation that happens
Yeah.
weekends or if we
Yeah.
ever get time to ourselves, which might not ever happen.
I know. I know.
The moment type of things. We
Yeah.
can't wait until it's perfect to do it.
Yeah.
When we burn out.
Especially when you're parenting infants and toddlers, and it's so
Yeah.
hard when it's so demanding of your time. Yes.
But I think a lot of the language it revolves around, self-care and wellness, meaning going to some place,
I know.
spending an hour doing something. And so
Yeah.
that makes someone to feel like, well, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I just want to normalize that to say
Uh-huh.
that even if you're so busy, you don't have time, there's things you can do in 60 seconds or less. Simple things that if you apply them consistently can help keep us in our optimal gear.
Okay. And then, so we'll get to what those are in a little bit, but also, so we talked about switching from high energy, high zone to the optimal. Do you also teach if you're in low? Like, because you could be in low if you're just if you're really sad about something, or again, maybe you didn't get the right amount of rest, or, I'm sure there's other reasons. Like, what else have you seen for low, I guess, when you're in a low?
There's ways to regulate from both places.
Okay.
I start usually with high gear because that's one that is usually common for
Yeah.
people. we're busy. And sometimes
Okay.
when we're in high gear for so long and we don't give ourselves recovery, we crash into low.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
what makes we just kind of shut down. And so I
And
start
that's
with
that like parenting burnout, right?
burnout.
Like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. We want to just forget everything, just disconnect. And so I like to start with high gear, just with
Okay.
simple things to do to keep our system balanced.
Okay.
Later on, coming to that low gear part. And if I'm working one-on-one with somebody, I can make this very specific to them. You know?
Got it. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about like what you would do for switching from a high gear to optimal.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you some general examples of resets.
Yeah.
So again, it's coming from the body. It's a
Hmm.
body approach. And so when we're in high gear, there's some clues our body gives us. Okay.
Yeah.
Clues in our breathing and
Hmm.
clues in our muscle tension.
Okay.
Starting with two just really simple things to do.
Hmm.
Breathing. Many different breathing techniques out there. I
Hmm.
start with something called anchor breaths, which is just taking
Yeah.
3 breaths
Okay.
with 4 principles of number one, slowing it down, because when we are in high gear, our breathing becomes really fast.
Yeah.
Interacting that by slowing it down.
Hmm.
Two, trying to breathe from our nose if possible, if that's okay for us.
Hmm.
Number three, good posture. And
Okay.
number four, allowing our belly to soften and move as we breathe. So just taking 3 intentional breaths that way. Actually, even
Wow.
one breath. I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
noticed this, but
Yeah.
just taking one breath for myself has actually helped, and even for my clients.
Yeah.
But I like to say three just to give a little more time.
Yeah.
How is that pause that happens? It's a pause, and then you're shifting your system, your nervous system into
Hmm.
a more balanced state.
Yeah.
Right? So that's breathing is, and then from there, there's so many different things you can do. But that's just an example of just a starting point.
Wow. Yeah. And I feel like that's probably really hard to do when you're really upset.
Well, it can be hard. That's why starting with
Yeah.
simple, quick things and making
Uh-huh.
it like a habit,
Hmm.
take a breath or three, is
Yes.
training yourselves to then do those things. Sometimes if we start with a complicated breathing techniques, in those moments of stress, we forget those.
That's true. No, that's true. Yeah. And I
So
have noticed that. Like, I have noticed when you're talking about when you're breathing, it's very, very fast, right? When you're in that high energy zone and you start to notice like your body is shifting in different ways, even heating up, like your muscles just feel like they're heating up when you're getting angry at something that's happening with your children. And I feel like just removing myself from the situation, taking those anchor breaths, or just getting away from it if I can, or even like touching something, right? Like that sensory to remind myself, like, okay, just take a few breaths. And I love that you call them anchor breaths, like really just trying to center yourself and calm down that nervous system and, release what's happening in your emotional junk drawer because that diaphragmatic breathing, that's so, so important. Like when you, like you said, like from your belly, it's actually cueing your brain and everything, right? That you're safe and you're okay.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
sending signals of safety is what it's doing. And you don't even have to step away from it all. You can
Mhm.
take a breath or three in the midst of it all. That's the whole point. You don't have,
That's true. Because you were saying, yeah, you don't have to step away. That's true. Yeah. So
yeah,
I think,
you're not
uh,
stepping away and actually in the moments when we're struggling.
yes, yes.
And you don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to be in a certain position. It's really using it in real time. That's how I've used it in my life. That's how I've trained my clients to use it. And, that's one technique. And another one, just to give your audience
Yeah.
something, is when we're in high gear, what happens when you talk about muscles is our
Mhm.
muscles become tense. Have you
Okay.
noticed that yourself?
Yeah, totally, totally.
Revved up and ready to go. So your muscles
Yeah,
are tense.
yeah.
So another technique I teach is I call it soften the armor. So we just take a few seconds to just check in with our body, even with our eyes open,
Mm,
and notice tension and release it in just a
okay.
few seconds.
Yeah,
To extent that can happen, but that is counteracting that high gear. That's helping us to downshift towards an optimal gear. So even
yeah,
just missing that moment, in the moment, not stepping away, in the
yeah.
bringing your awareness inside. So like I can actually do it when I'm talking to you. No one would even know it. Shift my awareness inside, release any tension, and then respond to the situation. That is huge too, if you start to practice this and implement it.
And how do
Because
you release the tension? So you're saying like notice the armor, right? And then like what do you do to release the tension in your body?
just soften it. And you can
Okay.
do longer practices to get better at that. But
Yeah.
even in the moment, like next time you notice yourself in a situation that is a little bit triggering,
Yeah.
bring your awareness inside. The first piece is awareness. The first piece is even knowing that you have
Mhm.
that muscle tension because a lot of us are walking around with this armor and tension. And I can say this as a physical therapist,
Yeah.
be armored up. and don't even realize that we are. So the first
I
place
know. Yeah.
of it is
Yeah.
not releasing it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, totally. I was just doing like a progressive muscle relaxation where you're like tensing it up and then relaxing it for another group that I was working with, like for refugee support. And I feel like that really helped them understand that their body, like you were saying, like a lot of times people don't understand that their bodies are so tense. And so I feel like something like that too, where you were basically just tensing up, right, your muscles and then relaxing can help you notice that difference. Yeah.
Any ways to build on that body awareness? So
Yeah.
thinking and relaxing is another one for sure. Just two introductory points is what I'm getting at
Yeah.
for something to start with right now. Because when we're in high gear, when we're in survival mode, we disconnect from our body.
Hmm.
So we're just bringing this awareness back into the body. No matter which technique you do, that
Yeah.
awareness is a piece there. But like
Yeah.
I said, the more that we can befriend our body and understand the signals of our body, the more efficient we can do any of these techniques. And the more
That's so
efficient.
true. Yeah. And I think that's key because I think a lot of times, like you were saying, right? South Asian parents, South Asians in general, we have not been taught to tune into our bodies. That's not something that we grew up with our parents saying, even, is your body full right now? It was like, finish your plate.
Yeah.
Like, so we didn't have
Yeah.
that recognition or awareness that our bodies are giving us signals to stop eating or to eat. And I see this a lot
Exactly.
in
We
different
override our own cues. You're right. You're so right about that.
yeah.
Like even being full, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So something as simple as that. So obviously, like when we're thinking about parenting and being in stress, we're not like the first question we're not asking ourselves is like, hey, what is my body doing right now? So I think that is going to be so important just to have those key questions that you ask yourself first before doing anything about it that you may regret later, right? And not and hope like think later that maybe I shouldn't have done that. So yeah, that's great to think about. And what would you as a parent yourself, were there like mind body tools that worked the best for you? Are they the ones you told us about, or was there anything specific that you could think about that you did? Your kids were being raised?
Sure. But
Yeah.
before I wanted to just finish by saying that these are all body-based regulations. So
Mhm.
it's about sometimes it's hard when we're in these stress states to think ourselves calm.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been there, but sometimes we're so revved up that it's hard to think yourselves calm. But to shift our body can help us to shift into a state where there's more calm.
Oh
So
yeah, I love that. I love that. Because yeah, it's like you don't want to just be working with your mind. Like it won't even work really, right? Because you're in that fight or flight. Your amygdala has hijacked your brain completely. And
exactly.
so how are you going to even work on that? And the best way to do that is what you're talking about, the body awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with my with my kids,
Yeah.
I've dabbled with so many different things.
Uh-huh.
And it's a humbling realization when even if you know lots of things, it doesn't mean your kids are going to adopt them at
Yeah.
that time, right? They are
Yeah.
all on their own journey, and that's
Uh-huh.
understanding of being a parent. So I've tried all kinds of things, and I've
Hmm.
practiced things with them. But two really simple things that I practice all the time and are both really regulating. One is humor.
Okay. Yeah.
Humor delivered appropriately, of course.
Uh-huh.
But laughter is what helps us to regulate. So I use
Yeah.
this with kids, I use this with my clients.
I love it. Yeah.
Then going out and taking a hike, because that has actually two things. That has movement and
Yeah.
that has nature, which are two things.
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah.
mention quality time away from devices.
Yes. So
These are things I do
important.
regularly as far as, it's not a technique, but it's just something that you can easily integrate.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like no, I've definitely heard of humor piece. Like even just like when you were talking about the down, we didn't get to the down regulation to optimal zone, but like I've seen this in other ways, like a mood meter with emotions on it. And like they talk about like go watch something really funny if you want to shift to like an like a probably an optimal zone, right? Like that's what they're talking about. Like when you're feeling low, do this or go for a walk, like you just said, or a hike. And I know, like, I feel sometimes I wake up, I feel super groggy and I don't want to go out. And I make myself go out there and walk around my neighborhood, look at the trees, get sunlight in. And I'm a different person afterwards, but I have to make myself do that. Yeah.
Exactly. When
Yeah.
movement's awesome. I mean, when we're in low gear, it can help rev us up.
Yeah.
And when we're in high gear, it can help to burn off some of that energy.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So it works in both ways. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Oh,
to
wow.
mention all of the other benefits that it has.
Yeah. Was there anything else? I guess we didn't get back to the low gear to high gear, but was there anything else that you can think of for parents that are just completely burnt out? Because I have seen that a lot too, where parents just are done. They're just like checked out and they don't want to parent, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Well, what I'm talking about here are small shifts.
yeah,
But I think overall, the picture of parenting is that it's a continuous learning journey.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, learning about our kids as they grow and evolve, but
Hmm.
also learning about ourselves as
Yeah.
we grow and evolve. And
Hmm.
so at any moment, we're just doing the best that we can.
Yeah.
Whatever we know, whatever
Mhm.
resources we have. And of course, it's easy as we continue to grow and evolve to look
Yeah.
back and say, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done that better.
Yeah.
But just recognizing that right here, right now,
Hmm.
there are small, simple things that you can do. It doesn't have to be the big things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, you know, actually a huge piece of this is that our regulation is contagious.
Yeah.
But what can we do? What can we do for our kids? I think we
Hmm.
miss sometimes we teach techniques and all of these things to
Hmm.
teach our kids.
Yeah.
But I think one huge aha
Hmm.
moment for me,
Yeah.
also from not doing it well,
Yeah.
from messing up actually,
Yeah.
is that regulation is contagious. So
Hmm.
the state that I'm in is going to impact my kids. And
Yeah.
so even if we don't exactly do something,
Yeah.
checkbox of perfect things to do,
Uh-huh.
but we can just use simple resets to shift our state.
Yeah.
Because often we come at that from that whole self-care piece, which comes
Mhm.
from guilt. Like we feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
But that's actually really important to model regulation, which is important for building resilience in our kids.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that. Like you are the model for your children to show them how this growth happens in this space that we're talking about. As my kids have definitely seen it from me. It definitely was a lot more reactive before when they were younger, and especially with my son, because he always says my daughter has it easier because they're 5 years apart, and I definitely more reactive with my son. But he's like, "Whoa, mom! Like you have changed. Like he has seen this." And so, my question for you was like for parents who feel that regret, that guilt, like they were overwhelmed, how do they now begin to build that emotional safety at home? And you kind of talked about, right, like that repair and showing them that this is possible with these micro resets in the moment and maybe narrating that, like telling them, hey, this is what I'm doing right now has helped me. I'm sure your kids have seen it, right? Your sons.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many things. Well, first of all, to build that emotional safety, it's
Hmm.
really a huge piece of that is our full presence for our
Yeah.
kids. We want to build emotional safety for them. Our presence means our ability to validate their experiences,
Yeah.
to listen
Hmm.
non-judgmentally, to help them to feel seen and heard,
Yeah.
which is coming from a regulated place.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of times when we talk about perfectionism and all of this, I
Yeah.
think we're really good
Hmm.
at sharing our successes with our kids.
I
They
know.
pick
Yeah.
it up from us, right?
Yeah.
All the successes, all the wins, but we're not as good about sharing our struggles, our failures, and
Hmm.
we've kind of messed up. And so
Yeah.
even just modeling that, modeling repair, and
Hmm.
even in the midst of the chaos, regulating ourselves. So we don't have to wait till things are perfect. Actually, in that moment,
Hmm.
model even a small thing
Yeah.
is huge, right?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Like breaking that perfectionism cycle for so many South Asians. And to do that, you have to be present. And I love how you talked about active listening and not being judgmental and showing up, because with perfectionism, you're thinking about that checklist. You can't really be present. And
Exactly.
so being present means you're leaving that behind and showing up, but also like sharing your mistakes, your failures, which I have heard from a lot of South Asian children that they feel that pressure because obviously they're like, look at my parents and now look at what I have to do. And so helping them see that. And so I love that. And I always tell parents, like, share dinner, like share one mistake you made, because that's also part of the growth mindset. And it should be something that you take, like, you have to make mistakes in order to grow and show our kids that. So whatever we want them to do, we should be modeling it. Like,
Exactly. And I learned this from
yeah,
a pediatrician a long time ago who
yeah,
said to me that make sure you share your failures. That
yeah.
if the kids look at us, they just see, oh, we're so successful, we have
Mhm.
this, we have that. They don't realize that it takes hard work and failure and all of the struggles we actually have had to face.
Yeah.
That's not really depicting an accurate picture.
Yeah.
It's, it's like an Instagram when everything's perfect. You don't really see
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So it's the same here. It's
Yeah.
okay to say I've messed up. Hey, I didn't handle that well. Looking back
Mhm.
at it, I wish I spoke a little differently to you. I'm sorry. Just even that is sometimes hard for us to do because
I know. Yeah, because we're trying to show that we got it all together and we don't want to tell them that we make mistakes too, even with parenting, right? Because then you're going to just feel like, and they're not going to take over. They are just going to appreciate us for being honest about where we feel and work out, or maybe I should have done that differently. So I think it's like, yeah, changing our mindset with that. And I know it's hard, but it is part of building that resilience in our kids. I want to thank you, Sharmila. We have learned so much from you today about how to change from being reactive to proactive, how to be present and like tune into our bodies, that chaos, right? And so, and all the practical tools that you gave us, I just wanted to ask you where listeners can find you, connect with you, and support the work that you're doing.
thank you. I so appreciate being here and having these important conversations.
Yeah.
I think they're needed.
Yeah.
And my best way to reach me is my website, resiliencepactics.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I give out free 20-minute strategy calls and work with people one-on-one or groups or workplaces. So I'd love to connect.
Together, we are building a community of strong, conscious South Asian parents, learning to be less reactive, more responsive, and deeply connected to our kids. Thank you so much, Sharmila, and to our audience at Brownish Parenting.